Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Spilling the Tea on GovCon. I'm Teresa Moon, Director of Business Development for Parabilis. We provide a better financial partnership for government contractors that includes a line of credit to fund your growth. The purpose of this podcast is to assist small businesses with success in the federal marketplace by introducing them to industry experts and resources that they may not otherwise know about. Today, my guest is Dottie Li. She's the founder and CEO of TransPacific Communications. Dottie and I met through the wonderful camaraderie and sisterhood of women impacting public policy. And having heard her speak on multiple occasions, I was drawn to her humor and her candor and her story, which is truly one of the American dream. Candidly, this is why I asked her to join us today, because though her story is amazingly unique, it's one that many will find common ground with. So I'm thrilled you're here, Dottie. Welcome.
Thank you, Teresa. I'm over the moon. I'm so happy. You get that?
I do. And I love the pun. I use it often myself. So thank you again. I would like to start off, if you wouldn't mind, take some time, a few minutes, introduce yourself, share your background, how you came to live and work in the United States, and what your specializations are, particularly as it pertains to your business.
Well, thank you so much. I am so honored to be on your show. And let me just take you back to my journey. And you've heard the story, and many people may have, but for those folks who have not, this is my journey. My name is Dottie Li. I am founder and CEO of TransPacific Communications. Well, I don't believe titles really mean much, so I'm going to tell you my story. I was born and raised in China. And when I was a little girl, about 8-9 years old, I listened to the broadcast of Voice of America in Mandarin. And so as a young girl, I had a dream. I wanted to become a VOA broadcaster. Well, there's a problem there. I was thousands of miles away. I didn't speak a word of English at the time. How would I be a VOA broadcaster? But I knew I had to do two things. One was to learn English, obviously, that was something I needed to overcome. The second one was perhaps even more of a challenge, was to get myself here physically to America. But somehow, even at that tender age, I knew I needed to pursue that. So I worked hard to reach my goal. So by God's grace, many years later, fast forwarding to college, and I studied journalism to follow my father's footsteps. I became a young journalist, a reporter writing for a national newspaper, which was such a thrill. And then, you could call it divine intervention. A school in America decided to give me this amazing opportunity. So I came running, and I landed in Mobile, Alabama. Yes, of all places, Deep South,
right?
As they call it, the Deep South. And so in school, I shared my childhood's dream of becoming a VOA broadcaster with my amazing communications professor, a man I'm still in touch with after 36 years, Dr. Billy Wolf. And he said to me, Dottie, the man who founded VOA, Mr. Kenneth Gittens, lived here in Mobile. Go figure. This is when this is a true incidence of divine intervention, right? Mm-hmm. God didn't put me at Harvard, Yale, and any of those fancy schools. He put me in a tiny little place called Mobile, Alabama. And so, of course, it was destiny. I had to meet the man who founded Voice of America. When I met Mr. Gittens, he wasn't in any shape of having a conversation. He had some kind of dementia or what challenges he was dealing with. However, Mrs. Gittens, Zelma Gittens, she thought this young lady had some potential. She decided to send me to Washington, D.C. We hit it off, an 80-year-old and a 20-some-year-old. We really hit it off, and she wanted me to go to D.C. to have some opportunities. So she bought me a ticket, an airline ticket, for a poor international student. That was incredible.
Yeah.
I was grateful. I was delighted. I was thrilled to go to the big city to be enrolled in a national journalism internship. So through that internship opportunity, we needed to get some hands-on experience. So I had to find a media outlet, and you probably figure which one I went to, right? I went straight to Voice of America. Now, after that internship was over at VOA, you guessed it, they offered me a job working as a broadcaster of Voice of America. So I'm going to take a bow, right?
Yeah. Pat yourself on the back. That's amazing. That's
Thank
dreams
you.
coming true.
Very, very grateful that my very first job in America was to realize my childhood dream. How cool was that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I keep reminding of myself that 9-year-old who didn't speak a word of English, who could travel thousands of miles away to come to America to realize her dream. You pretty much could do anything here in America, the land of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on to have such an amazing ride in my journey. I was a network television producer at C-SPAN, basically shortly after VOA, and I was a corporate spokesperson. I worked for a top PR firm, and that was when the White House came knocking on my door. So I got a ride of a lifetime. I worked for President Clinton and Mrs. Clinton, traveling around the world and in the country handling media events. So basically, I was an events man or events woman, and that was incredible, especially for an immigrant, right?
Mm-hmm.
To go to work for, the most powerful couple or most powerful man in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned so many skills that I'm still using till this day. And I'm teaching young people how to use those skills. So let me come back to how I founded TransPacific Communications. I didn't quite explain to you when I was a spokesperson coming out of C-SPAN, a corporate spokesperson, I realized I had a liability, which was my mixed of Chinese accent taught by British English and then marinated in the deep South for a few years with a Southern drawl and Alabama drawl. So that was my liability, my opinion, to serve as a spokesperson to deal with my former colleagues, those people who are still in the media, and I needed to do something about that accent. That was a funny accent, to say the least, right? And I asked for help. Told my supervisor I needed to neutralize or modify my accent so I could perform my duty better, so I could sound more authoritative and all that good stuff. And she was very supportive of that. So I took that training. It was a one-on-one training, modifying and reducing my accent. And boy, I have to tell you, that is perhaps the single best thing I ever did for my career. As a matter of fact, I saw the amazing benefits from that training. It not just reduced and modified my accent, it actually opened up an entire world for me. I made a living, I'm still making a living using English. Yet for me, as a corporate spokesperson, as a former network television producer, this was a true game changer and just elevated me to a place where I could never have imagined. It propelled me to working for the White House, right? I was convinced if I hadn't changed the way I communicated, there was no chance of me working for the White House, for the president. And there would be no chance of me founding TransPacific Communications. I'm looking back, all these people that I've helped through that program that I designed after my own training, right? I got certified because I had that entrepreneur spirit. I also saw there was a huge market for that type of training. So I jumped in, I got certified right away. And I said, gosh, I got to do something about helping others who are in my situation, who don't make a living using English. As a matter of fact, at the time, I had friends who were pursuing a PhD in math, in other subjects, many of those who couldn't put a sentence together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's heavy accent or not, but people could not understand them.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew there was a big market, and that was when the entrepreneur seed was planted. And fast forwarding to a few years later after the White House, and I decided, this is where I really need to hone in on my expertise and cross-cultural communication experience in light of the fact that I got to work with foreign government officials to represent my new country, to represent America. So that was when TransPacific Communications was found, on that single notion that I could help so many people overcome their communication challenges. And so it took off from there. And we have so many other types of training under the umbrella of cross-cultural communication. But I'll stop here because the story...
Well, we're going to talk about that. And I'm just going to frame it up because, I mean, I knew everyone would be delighted to hear how amazing and extraordinary your story is, because you're one of those people who you have a dream and you go after it. And the tenacity behind that is really the entrepreneurial spirit. It takes a lot of courage to do that. And especially when you're doing it so far from home in an environment that is an entirely different language. Most people are well aware that there's two very difficult languages to learn in this world, and you have both of them. And I'm sure that there's a lot more to it than that, but Chinese and English are two of the most demanding languages to have be able to command, and you do it both very well. And I think on top of the monetizing aspect of being able to take your journey and turn it into a business, you are super humble about it too, and approachable of it. And so that's what I want to jump into, is to really dig into how, based off of when you started and started moving into the environments that you work in now, I think you've already talked about it a little bit, about your journey influencing your career path, right? And so I think what about when you started and you started really finding the different niches of where you could be impactful, how have you been able to take the innovation of what you do, because it is unique, your own experience plays into that, of course, but you're a thought leader within it. You travel all over the world, literally, to deliver speeches and educational presentations based off of your own experience. And so where's the innovation drive behind that?
Oh, thank you so very much. And you're very kind, and those kind words and encouragement. I think it's the point that you set yourself apart. How do I do it? How do other people do it? I've learned this from an early days in my career. This concept is not new, but we as Trans-Pacific Communications people on the team, we have applied this notion. It's called the Blue Ocean Strategy, right? Blue Ocean Strategy basically is to create a space, to create something so unique and so different than all others and your competitors and alike, that you seek a place where you have no or very little competition. I think that's the song sheet, the music sheet where you're going on, right? Be it the training we created.
Okay, so I think we addressed some of how your journey has influenced your career path. And interestingly enough, your path has led you to not only something that I think is amazing based off of what your childhood dream was, but you spoke a little bit about how you've done work with Rosetta Stone.
Yes, ma'am. You see that yellow box right there? I can't point.
Yep.
The yellow box, that's the signature box of Rosetta Stone. Again, because of my childhood dream, I was able to be a Voice of America broadcaster. Rosetta Stone came knocking on my door, and I am the voice and voice coach of Rosetta Stone's Mandarin products. I take a bow right there.
Yes, that is so neat. And I can't believe that I didn't know that about you. It's probably because most of the speaking engagements that I've been to of yours have been TED Talk type. So they've been quick and concise. And so for you to be able to include all of your accolades, it would probably take you a year. So, but that is super cool. I wanted to add that in so that people know, any of you who are looking to learn Mandarin, you're going to be learning it from the master herself right here. So how cool is that? That is amazing. I love that. And I'm glad, and talk about innovation, right? You have really transformed your ability to, really make it work in the federal marketplace, but also in the world market, because you go all over the place. You travel all over the world. People bring you in corporate events to speak to them on different topics. And I think the innovation within the way that you've become a thought leader is super important. And so let's talk a little bit about that. When you're speaking to different groups, how are you innovating differently? Because that's really what separates a thought leader from the rest of the pack.
Such a great question. And I wanted to use that word innovation differently than what has been used. People talk about innovation, they immediately go to tech. I am far away from tech. That doesn't mean I don't use technology, but when it comes to innovation at TransPacific Communications, this means we follow a principle, a guideline, if you will, our true North Star, which is the Blue Ocean Strategy. As you know, that is the principle of setting yourself apart. The principle of Blue Ocean Strategy is to create a space where you have little or no competition. That's what we've been doing from day one, right? You heard about my story of creating that training. Well, that training is not the only one on the market, but our training is different than all the others out there because we've done it. We've been there, done that, and bought the t-shirt, as they say, as the kids say. And we have the experience that really talks to our customers, that resonates with people, again, because of our lived experience, and we know how to do it. We could differentiate the northern, say the Chinese people, the northern Chinese accent characteristics from the southern Chinese accent characteristics, from a German characteristics, or from Latin American characteristics, and so on and so forth. We not only lived it, we studied it, we researched it, and we've done it over and over again, right? Tried and true. So I think that's really what sets us apart. That's our innovation. And when I do go around to talk with different people, be a training, be a keynote, many stages. By the way, this is the month of May. As you know, it's the Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Well, people like myself, we get a little bit extra popular. And I've been so blessed to deliver keynotes for the month of May alone, just to celebrate AA and HPI Heritage Month. I just did a keynote yesterday, and I have a few more to go. I have a total of 6 keynotes. Wow. I'm not complaining, right? But when I talk to different folks, and again, it's that story, that your personal story that touches people, that resonates with people. It doesn't matter where you're from, you're homegrown, or you're from another part of the world like I am. And so we've used that innovation approach, the Blue Ocean approach, to deal with our customers, to deal with our market in general, right? So that's how we innovate ourselves, so that we're able to be on different stages to give a different type of perspective. Again, I was in Biloxi, Mississippi about a month ago. This was a diversity and leadership conference where many diversity experts spoke about their take on the subject of DEIA. Most people use DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. For us at TransPacific Communications, it's DEIA. That A stands for accessibility. But it's not what you think. It's not the ADA, it's not the wheelchair ramps, it's not the 508 compliance. It's all of that. But for us, the A is all about language accessibility. It's language access because one of our pillars, as you know, is translation. So translation is all about accessibility. So it's language access and it's language justice. And we really do it better than many translation companies because we bring something unique and different to that landscape. We provide cross-cultural communication perspective and expertise on top of the expert translation and interpretation skills.
I love that. And your Blue Ocean strategy is brilliant. I do a ton of research. I'm the brand strategist for Parabilis. And so I do a lot of research all the time about really that shaping mentality and how you're not differentiating yourself as much as you are as shaping the environment to be inclusive of what your core values and core beliefs are, and making it your own, making an ecosystem grow out of what you believe to be true, as opposed to assimilating into other environments, and finding a way to be not just a differentiator, but a distractor, someone that really disrupts the environment, if you will. And so I think that's brilliant. We need to have a one-off conversation about how you guys could possibly help me with my strategy going forward as well. So I love that you've just brought that to the table. I did know about a little bit about that blue ocean strategy, but it didn't make that light bulb moment for me go off until just now. So we'll talk about that later, and I love it. And you are a big differentiator in the marketplace because of your journey, I think, more than anything else, and the experience that you bring to the table. But I know it hasn't always been easy. You've achieved everything you've gone after, which is a testimony to your persistence and your tenacity more than anything else, I believe. And you're brilliant. So let's not take that off the table, of course, too.
Oh.
But what challenges have you faced that have impacted the way that you do business?
Well, this is another great question. As an entrepreneur, as a woman business owner, as a woman of color, minority, blah, 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 I think we all meet various business challenges. But in the federal space in particular, one thing was at the beginning, I am a trained journalist. How would I know anything about FAR, right? I didn't know what FAR stood for. I still don't know many of things. It's a Bible.
It is.
So you had to learn and navigate and to understand that you are compliant. We learned about 2-3 years ago, we were trained to be DCAA compliant. Again, I didn't have a clue, right? So those are the challenges day in and day out. You got to keep up with the regulations, the new rule here and there, and you name it. So that's part of the major challenge in navigating this federal space, procurement space. Another challenge is, I think, is understanding what your customers are telling you. So if your customers are saying, we don't want machine translation, you better listen. I know AI is here. I know technologies here that you can't avoid using AI. As a matter of fact, I do believe AI is going to help many people tremendously to be more efficient, to cut down a lot of costs on many things. But if my customers, nobody wants AI translation, machine translation, that does tell us something. It gives us enough data. Does machine translation get you to a place much faster? Yes. But does machine translation eliminate all those errors? Probably not, because there are so many things the machine has yet to learn to get the nuance, to make sure that's not missing the human touch, whatever that might be. Many years ago, 2016, as a matter of fact, I did a story with NPR's flagship program, All Things Considered. Back then, Google was only able to translate 2 languages. One was Chinese, and they figured they'll find a Chinese translation expert to go against Google. So it was like David against Goliath, but it was just Dottie against Google. And they wanted to test out who would do a better job when it comes to translation. Teresa, I'm sure you know who won the battle, right?
Yep.
Yeah, human. Yay, this human.
Yeah.
And so fast forwarding, that was 8 years ago, something like, I can't do math fast enough, too early for me. And so the machine is much, much better. However, none of our client, I'm sounding like a broken record, if they don't want machine translation, then we're still using this good old-fashioned God-made brain to deliver our best translation materials, be it your brochures, your website, your campaign materials within political season, right? Yep. Or your voter registration guides themselves. Many Americans do not speak English as a first language, and we need to reach people where they are. be
Right.
it through translation or some other means, so that people could get your message directly. It could be your book. You're writing a book, but the book needs to be translated into the languages people could truly understand. So I'll get off the horse preaching to the choir.
I love it. You know, I think that it is truly brilliant, the ways that you've been able to tackle a lot that have been thrown at you. I think, though, like I said in the beginning, what you've accomplished is unique. I think a lot of people struggled in a similar way, whether it was just from a different background or trying to really go after that dream that they had. But I think at the crux of all of it is that stick-to-itiveness, that never give up attitude, that I'm okay being David versus Goliath, because we all know how that story ended anyway, right? And so I think that that's amazing. And I'm so glad that you were able to come on and share a little bit about your story, because there's so much more that people haven't been able to learn yet. And so I hope that after this, you feel good enough that you would love to come back again, please.
Anytime. Thank you
Awesome.
so much, Teresa. Again,
Absolutely.
I am over the moon that I get to chat with you on your show. So thank you so much.
You got it. And I will be lucky to have you back anytime. And I look forward to seeing you this summer at all of our WIP events. And I hope you're going to be traveling with us, because aside from being able to bring a fresh new ideas and fresh face to the lineup that we have at our Challenge Her events, you're always a fun time to have around as well, because you're hilarious. And I just absolutely adore you. So thank you so much for your time today. Oh, I love it.
The feeling is mutual, sending all the love to you. And I'm so looking forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. Likewise. And thank you all for joining us. As always, we pride ourselves on sharing the most insightful and exciting people and information to help you better navigate your GovCon journey. If you like what you heard today, you can also see all of our past podcasts, which are archived on our YouTube channel by the same name. Stay tuned for all of our future guests in the coming months as we help you grow to great heights in the year ahead. I'm Teresa Moon, and this is Spilling the Tea on GovCon. Have a great day, my friends.